Hey there, Amplifiers. Thanks for tuning in. And one of the things that's most exciting about the show is we get to connect with other thought leaders who are out there amplifying, making a difference, being recognized, and just the thought leaders in the industry. Caleb Jenkins is someone I had the opportunity to meet over the past few years, and I continually seeing him on my feed, connecting out in the world, being highlighted as a thought leader and making a difference in the world. He is a true amplifier. He's with RLJ Financial Inc. and is the leader of Client Account Services. Caleb, thanks for guesting on Growth Amplifiers and being here today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be on here with you. I've enjoyed chatting with you every time we've talked at conferences, and every time we've talked outside of conferences. You're an inspiration.
Likewise, man. That's really cool. So thank you for being here. One of the things we want to do is get a little bit of backstory of how you got into doing what you're doing today and what motivates you to keep on pushing and striving to level up. Even though you're already like doing great things, I can tell you continually push and challenge yourself to grow. So let's start with the backstory so people can get a little bit more to know a little bit about who you are and how you're at where you're at today.
Yeah. So I got started in accounting when I was young. My dad had an accounting firm. That's the firm that I work in today. And so the first 10 years of my life, my dad's accounting or office was he had a front office and a back office behind our house location. So after I'd finished up with school for the day or whatever, I'd go out, and a lot of times I'd go out and into the office and play with computers if there was an extra one available, or I would go out and help with client filing or shredding or whatever, any of those types of things. So you might say I had an early start there. I started learning client names and client whatever through all of that. But then probably a couple of years later, I was when I officially started. So dived into QuickBooks quite in depth. I had started using QuickBooks a couple of years earlier than that for myself. My dad had it installed it on our home computer, and so I did some baking of cookies for my dad during tax season, and he said, "Hey, for me to pay you, I need an invoice." And so I created an invoice on QuickBooks and gave it to him, and then I got my payment and whatever. So then I'm like, "Hey, why not track my personal here too?" So yeah, I was fairly young when I started doing that, but I would say taught myself accounting through using QuickBooks. And so there was a couple things later on, a couple years later, I went through at the time, I don't even know if they still exist or not, but real world training, put on a pretty in-depth, teaching exercises into QuickBooks. So quite in depth. And I love just playing with the sample companies and creating bogus transactions to learn how the system works. And honestly, that's still how I learn a lot today, is playing with fake sample data files and just trying to figure out how to mess it up or how to grow through it. So through that experience, I grew quite a bit into the QuickBooks world and the connected ecosystem of third-party apps. Really developed a love of teaching in that too. So a lot of teaching with clients early on. So client has a QuickBooks problem or a need, whatever. A lot of times, probably my first time was probably a couple weeks after or a week after I went through some of the real world training courses and whatever. I jumped on my four-wheeler. It was a friend of mine and rode out to his place. So I lived in the country, so I was a mile or two, and went to his place. And so I sat down with him at his computer and helped him, taught him what I knew at the time, and really enjoyed that. And through that exercise taught me the skill of learning for their question or waiting for their questions, trying to dive into their questions and solve their problems. Because if they don't understand something, then they won't grow from there. So I went from there and like got involved in the accounting conference space pretty early on again as well. And so I'm probably by far at the time was by far the youngest person at the accounting conference. And being not afraid to go up and talk to people, whatever, being young as well. That combination was a pretty successful combination, because if you are the average age of most everyone else in the space is probably 55 or whatever at going to these conferences. And so then you have a 19-year-old show up at your conference, whatever, and be interested in something. I mean, I can definitely see why a 55 or 60-year-old thought leader would be like, "Hey, this is great. I want to teach this person what they need to know." So I got pretty much an inside track with connections and relationships to some of the top thought leaders in the space from early on. And to this day, a lot of those individuals are still my closest connections in the accounting space. So that's a little bit of my early journey, how I got involved. And I would say what keeps me involved here is because I love technology, I love innovation, and I love teaching as well. And there's and the relationships that come through all of that.
That is beautiful. I know I've got two young boys who, at the time of this recording, are 11 and 14. And I'm sharing some things about what I do in my world. I'll let them choose their path and what's best for them, but
Mhm.
it's really cool to help share that. And you, although had that advantage of having, a father with that experience, you didn't rest on your laurels. You got into it and created your own path and started getting recognized yourself. And
I,
we talked
I
about some
wouldn't
different events.
I wouldn't say that I went out for the purpose of getting recognized. The
Yeah.
that was a byproduct of what happened. So it was more, I just loved to learn,
Hmm.
and learning by itself introduces you to tremendous opportunities, and those opportunities occasionally end up in some forms of recognition. But I don't do something for recognition. I don't do something for the praise of men. I do everything. I intend to do everything for the glory of God. And so the but the purpose of going out and learning is to educate myself so that I can be a better service to my clients, and to try to help bring somebody else along as well. So if I'm in a conversation with another accounting firm owner or someone else, like, hopefully I have something that I can help bring them along, and catapult them forward as well.
So you've gotten a lot of different experience in that by getting involved, by showing thought leadership, you create kind of like an upward spiral. Now, there are different events out there, from scaling new heights to engage to QB Connect or QB Live.
It's
um,
into a connect now, yeah. So,
they, yeah,
but
there we go. So there's different opportunities to get out and engaged, but some people, they may go to these events and they're
mm,
trying to grow their practice, and they're working hard, and some of them feel overworked, and they're running into challenges getting to the next level. For people that are in that space and they want to amplify, they want to take it to the next level, what are either some of the challenges that you see that they may be facing, or some suggestions to overcome those challenges, or a combo of both?
yeah, I mean, your technology stack is a critical piece of that. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing that you've always done, expecting different results. And a lot of people keep trying to do the same thing, expecting different results, and that does never work typically. So if you like, if your formula for success historically is work more hours, and get more done, charge more per hour or whatever, you're still going to be in a rat race of a circular downward spiral. So part of your journey needs to be to change up the formula, and part of the changing of the formula introduces. I mean, going way back, Ron Baker was one of the first individuals that I learned from. Still tremendous thought leader in the space that I admire today too. But diving in and looking at how do we grow our firm and through success. Early on, he was talking about value pricing instead of hourly billing. Huge huge formula for success, because really it's the front end of a business model. So your pricing is the result of your business model. So the historical business model has normally been reactive services that are compliance in nature. So looking at what's behind you, it's the past, it's history, and there's not, I wouldn't say there's no value, but there's not tremendous amounts of value in that experience, because you're just recording the past. You can't change the past necessarily. You can't you can't shape a guide for you in the past. Like it's just back there. Like there's maybe some things you can do from a tax perspective, like you might be able to contribute to an IRA, or you might be able to contribute to an HSA, but those items are extremely limited in what can be done. And so, but if I am looking forward and I'm proactive in my relationship, then the sky's the limit basically as to what can be done. Like I can change a trajectory of somebody's business by jumping into a meeting with them and learning where they're at for the year, learning what their goals are for the year, and then with my knowledge, with my knowledge of their business, knowledge of the industry, knowledge of future tax law, etc., help guide them and shape their direction of where they go with their business. Plus, it gives me the opportunity to maybe introduce some new technology to them to save them time, or to do something more, or get them better data quality for what they're interested in reporting on. So lots of pieces there on that pricing side. But I would say that's the symptom, not the root issue. The root issue is trying to develop a better business model. So like what is it that you're trying to do? Is your thing that you're trying to do to just accomplish a finished tax return? Okay, well, I mean, that's fine. But I would say that could be a broken business model, because now we're just competing for volume and price.
That it's not a winning strategy.
I mean, unless you're H&R Block or something, but even that, I would say
Right.
it's not a winning strategy.
So people, and I see a lot of people, they hear these ideas about either value pricing or subscription / membership pricing, and they see it, they kind of get it, but then the thought about how do we implement it? What are we
That's
gonna,
hard.
where are we
It's
gonna put
hard.
it into action? What if we try it and we lose all our customers and they resist it? What is your advice to people that are knowing they need to make those changes, they want to make those changes, but they just don't know where to start or how to get it into action?
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, like I understand and I appreciate a lot of what's been talked about on what Ron Baker calls value pricing 2.0, or with the subscription pricing model now. We're not there. And we may not be there for a while, if ever. I don't know. We'll have to see. But basically, like that aspect is way on the way front side of the early adoption curve. And I mean, or before even that. And so it's yeah, we'll have to see a little bit of where that goes. I definitely think subscription is a powerful model for a lot of pieces, but value pricing itself, in any time you switch a business model, the key thing is to make a plan and then to execute on your plan. And to do that, one of the easiest ways in my experience to do that is to do it with new customers. So that you're not rocking the boat on existing customers. You're not, or pick a customer that you know is willing to work with you, that's flexible, that's enjoyable to do. Either way, one or the other, but pick one path or the other, and then with that, test it, try it, develop within that, and then do it again and again. And then personally, like once you develop that, this is where we want to go, make that your protocol for all new clients coming in the door. And so that's just the way you do it across the board for everybody. Then once you've developed that very refined, then go backwards and start working off converting some of your legacy clients into the new business model. That's a little bit harder because, especially if you have 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old client relationships in the old business model, then it's a little bit harder to rock their boat. However, I would argue that if any of those individuals left and went to a new firm, a lot of times what they're going to be interested in from that new firm is that new business model. So they just don't realize it because it's easy working with you today because it's the same way they've worked with you for 40 years. So most people don't like change on the surface, or they say they don't like change. I would argue Patrick Lencioni had a podcast episode a while ago that it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 or 5, but it was an incredible podcast episode. The title of it was "Change is Easy, Transition is Hard." So a lot of people are okay with change. They don't like the transition that goes with it. So it's really, they give the example of graduation season, which we just came through here, or maybe going through. It depends on where you're at. But like, it's really easy to get to 12th grade or college level and graduate, whatever. That's fun. Change is fun in that case, but transition is hard. Like maybe you were a high school student, whatever, and then you graduate and now you have to transition into new life, whatever, at post graduation. You got to figure out your job, you got to figure out a career, you got to figure out all kinds of stuff for life. And so that transition can be hard. Or they also give the example of you're single and then you get married, whatever. Like, change in that case is fun. It's easy, or it's easy to have the wedding. It's not so easy to transition from single life to married life. Or they also give the example of like going from married with no kids to married with kids, whatever. Like, that changes is fun. It changes. Like, a lot of people want the change, but then the transition is hard. Like, yeah, like you have a death of something on one side in order to have new life over here. And a lot of people, they chase after the new life aspect, or the something new over here, but they don't actually memorialize the death of this over here and the funeral of the old. And so, because of that, they're hanging on to the past, trying to remember those good old days, whatever, without truly diving into the new change that's up ahead of us. And that's why transition is so hard.
I can see that. I see that a lot with the people that I connect with. Whether it's them themselves, the owner who needs to make the change, or their clients, change is hard for people. That's a great concept you shared. Thank you. One of the things that's been helpful for me to help people work through that, people get caught up because a lot of these are ideas in their mind. They're stuck in their mind. They're spinning in their mind. So we say, let's get them from your mind to a document, to paper.
Yep.
And then now you've got a picture of an elephant. And then how do you eat an elephant?
A bite at a time.
Bite at a time. So breaking it out into smaller pieces, we like to say, what's the minimum viable product? What's the smallest step that you could take that would start moving this into action? And then if you're really having blocks, working with somebody, a guide, just like you help your clients achieve goals, working with someone to go through that together, so you have some guidance and accountability, can really be a great transformational items. Wow.
So I have a contrary opinion on that,
Sure.
a little bit. So I understand what you're saying. I probably agree with you a lot on that. But the concept of MVP, minimally viable product, whatever, I don't like in a lot of regards, and that's in the software world. That's used very regularly to kick out a new product, and it's like a pre-alpha or an alpha or maybe beta testing product, whatever, that they kick out into the real world. And the challenge with that is it's too early for the product to go to the whole world, whatever. And then a lot of people might see it, might look at it and say it's not ready for showtime yet. And then quit using it, and then the company behind the product stops innovating on that new piece of technology, and so it just gets left out. There's a vestige in the world that's not finished and never gets finished, and eventually the product company decides to kill it because nobody's using it. And I would argue it's because they never finished the development on that. So I have no problem with kicking something out into the real world as an MVP product, but gotta continue innovating and piecemealing on that. You don't just take the first bite of the elephant and stop. You've got to finish biting off the elephant and complete it. And that way you can move on to your lion or whatever else you're wanting to do.
I concur with your thought there, and I'll just add in. So that's a good point. So sometimes when I'm using that term of finding the one action to take, it may not be introducing it yet. It may just be that don't get caught up trying to figure out the whole puzzle. Just get the one step done first. Then that will give you clarity on the next step. And then eventually you come to a point where it's time to introduce. So I'm glad you brought up that distinction, because it does make a difference. You don't want to just be like, well, I'm going to put out value pricing, so I'm just going to do one part of it and not explain the whole thing.
That's right. That's right.
So,
And then I would argue, like in today's era too, go play with ChatGPT, whatever on that too. Go dump your thoughts, go dump your idea, your elephant in there, and have it break it down into actions for you. To say here's the 24 steps that you need to do, whatever on it. Great. Okay. Now I can then start thinking through those 24 items and get to a better realization of what needs to be done next.
yes, leverage technology. It is there. It is a tool, and it doesn't necessarily do the action for you, but it can give you a path, a plan to start working from. Speaking of ideas, and time flies when you're having fun. We've got all different ideas to pull from. We've talked about a few events earlier. We could bring up any books of interest or podcasts of interest that you've been checking out recently that you'd recommend.
Oh, I mean, books. I mean, I'm reading a couple right now. They're probably not related to this space, whatever. But one of them is Faith Driven Entrepreneur. It's a very interesting book. But I'd say any and all of Patrick Lencioni's books that I've read are incredible books. I would definitely recommend all of them to every single business owner, or anyone even that's not a business owner, anybody that's in the world of business. Like, he's got his pulse on things that are problems in the accounting space, and how do you solve those or not even just accounting, anything in the business world, and not even just the business world, your nonprofit world, your family world, all kinds of things. Like, there's all kinds of truths and lessons that he teaches in his books and podcasts, whatever. His podcast, At the Table, is a great podcast. He had like a 6-7 month hiatus here recently, but he just started publishing again. So I've enjoyed listening to those. I have a laundry list of podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. So we could probably talk for more than a whole episode on just different podcasts that could be listened to. But then conferences, we talked earlier about Scaling New Heights, definitely go. Like, if you have the opportunity to go, I would love to see you there. And there's all kinds of opportunities on the exhibit floor. There's like 130 plus exhibitors there. And which is a incredible amount. It's way too much for you to accomplish in one setting, whatever. But there's no better place to learn than there. And I have walked away every single year that I've been in the past with tremendous amounts of new takeaways, and with new technology that I can go implement within our firm and with our clients, and to really try to innovate and bring the model forwards, and to try to keep innovating for our clients. So the sessions are incredible. I love that Joe Woodard has always put on a theme for the conference, and the theme is very practical for business owners and accounting leaders to try to learn and to develop based on a particular theme. And it seems like there's almost always a real pulse on what do we need in the profession for that moment. And so that seems to be what the theme is for this year. The theme is make it so. Let's try to put stuff into action. Let's try to implement and actually develop on what we're learning.
Wonderful. Thank you. One of the ways that we wrap these interviews up is if you could share something you learned on your journey that might help someone on theirs. It could be related to anything in life. It does not have to be business focused, but it could be. What is something that you'd care to share as a parting thought?
One thing I've learned in life, I mean, this is cliche and simple, but never stop learning. You always have to. If as moment you stop learning, you're a dinosaur and you're dead. And the learning is, I would say, multiplicity of facets of avenues. So into spiritual learning, go into aspects of outside your business world, particularly, and learn from other industries, learn from technology, continue innovating in that space. So as soon as you think that you have it, you're way behind whatever. So just continue learning, continue growing, and every time that I have stepped into a new realm to learn for new license, new certification, whatever the case may be, whether it's tax or accounting or wealth management or anything else. Every time I do it, like I learn tremendous amounts that is applicable to all kinds of the rest of my life. And so just simply learning itself is a tremendous tool that will guide you through a lot of your journey of life.
To piggyback on that, you just shared a great suggestion. And sometimes it's actually that thought. Sometimes it's like the things we know, it's like it doesn't matter what we know, it matters the actions that we're taking, and more importantly, are we benefiting from those actions? Are they having the
Right.
intended outcome? A lot of the times we can get too caught up in the mind. I already know this already, so I don't need to put time and attention to it. But to your point, even if you know something, you can probably go deeper with it. You could probably master it at a different level. So if you get in the mindset, I already know this, I know it all, that's like the teenage brain, right? So we want to step away from that, be an amplifier, continually stretch, push yourself to learn something new from something that you may think you already know. How can you get it better? How can you develop mastery in that area? Caleb, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. I highly appreciate that. If people are interested to learn a little bit more about who you are, your business, where could they go and what should they do?
I mean, you can find me on any social media, X or Twitter, or what was Twitter. So Caleb L. Jenkins for my handle there, or LinkedIn. Those are the two that I post on probably the most for anything accounting world related.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. And if you're tuning in, make sure that you don't just hear this information, you act upon it. New results require new actions, and be the amplifier that you were born to be. Caleb, thank you.
Thank you.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.